Hello, I'm Lisa LaRose, and I'm a Vancouver comic creator, and I'm here with fellow comic creators in the local area. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
We would love to. Thank you, Lisa. I'm Jesse Brown. And this is Paul Brown, my brother.
We've made a couple comics together. I'm an illustrator. Jesse is a writer.
We work under the collective name Ikth Fantasy. And
What does Ikth stand for?
You can just figure out how to spell that one on your own.
What is Ikth?
Oh, it's short for Illinois Knights Templar Home. No, that's not true. It's the name of a fantasy setting that we have been making since we were children. Yeah.
So do you have a comic book in that setting then?
Yeah, two comic books.
Two comic books.
Indeed.
Yeah, we have The Savior, which is sort of like a
supernatural war story that it's like, there's like a guy who's like, oh, I'm in the demon war.
And we also have a book called Traveler, which is about a happy-go-lucky bird person who travels around this world, this Ikth setting, and stops in several locations and kind of gets caught up in the hijinks of each place. And it's kind of a story about him exploring the world.
Like the story
So both of those comics are in the same universe, or in the same world?
They're in the same universe. They're very different in tone and in like...
Yes, that's why I'm so surprised. And one has bird people, and the other one is not bird people, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
I've read both of them, and they're really cool.
Bird in sight.
Yeah, so now I'm like, how do these go together? I think that your bird traveler is going to be going through dimensions. Is that what it kind of alluded to? Like, sort of,
yeah. There's like
this. Well, if we want to go into specifics,
yeah.
The setting of Traveler, it starts with like this kind of like idyllic setting, and so they put up a barrier and then haven't left in 50 years.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
and so it's like Azanaki is like Azanaki, who's the bird person, is his whole adventure starts from him like being like, I'm gonna see the world. Nobody knows what's out there. Like nobody's left in 50 years. Like I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, because it's a fantasy setting, they haven't just like closed their borders.
It's like
they've literally removed themselves from the world and like put themselves into kind of a pocket dimension.
So Traveler came out at VanCAF last year.
Yes.
And now you're working on expanding your fantasy world with more comics in the future?
Yes, basically.
Long term.
What we're working on right now is kind of it's sort of like a special edition of Traveler and also of The Savior,
with where added missing pieces of the puzzle, things that will kind of further delve into some of the things touched on in the stories. Like there's all these things have kind of gone into a little bit more detail with like added art and a little bit of writing and stuff like that, just to give you like an extra context for the works.
For some of it, yeah, and also kind of with the idea, at least from my perspective, of kind of of having like a single kind of book that it's like that kind of has all the different stuffs together, rather than like, I know that when I'm reading a work, for example, I kind of prefer if there's like one thing that I can read and I can just get it and be like, okay, good, I have the whole thing here, as opposed to like, okay, so read this part and then you can go on like Twitter and see the art for this, and then this other part.
You're just collecting all the bits.
You sort of, exactly.
Into like,
and adding a little context as well, like
bigger book.
And it's like some of the stuff is like never before seen stuff that we have created since the releases, and then some of it is like for example, and this is kind of going into a different thing, but we made a French version of it.
Oh, right? Cool.
And
you're both fluent in French.
We are both fluent in French.
Yes. Yeah, we were brought up bilingual. And so basically like just including the French version in with the English version so like people don't have to decide like, do I want to buy the French version or the English version? Because like, we did, we
I mean, just like by the very nature of translation, right? Nothing comes out exactly
the same. Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because when we were doing the French translation, actually, there's a lot of like, it was almost better in a way because it was like kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it was
languages
weird.
have like kind of these like, different characteristics, and some of the things like kind of came across better, if you will, in the French version. Like some nuances that weren't necessarily present in the text of the English version.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
by force of the language, just kind of came through. It was just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So this new version is it going to be a physical book? Is it an ebook?
It's an ebook.
It's an ebook, and that's coming out now.
Like pretty much now.
Right now for VanCAF online.
Exactly.
Cool. And where can people find that?
They can find it at Gumroad.
Oh.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
I have a few more questions because I want to, I know the answer, but writer, artist, who does what? What's the process like for you guys making these books?
Do you want me to answer?
Go ahead.
Okay, so typically Jesse writes, and it's a sort of a very collaborative process, the whole thing from start to finish. Jesse writes kind of an outline, then we go together and kind of edit it, and it kind of goes back and forth. We bounce the ideas around, and then finally, when we're kind of happy with the kind of the general arc of the story, we'll go in and like storyboard it. So we'll go with all of our like build thumbnails, figure out when the important moments are, the pacing of it all, what takes what time, and then build it like that. So build it sort of from almost like almost like storyboard type thumbnails. And then from there, once that's all set, I did the inks and digital colors as well, and then Jesse did the what do you call it?
Lettering.
And do you guys do comics full time, or do you guys have jobs outside of comics? And how does that influence your work in comics?
Going.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So I have a job outside of comics. I tutor English, and definitely hugely influential on the work, but in kind of a roundabout way.
Well, isn't it? No, a lot of the people that you were tutoring were specifically like Chinese Canadian, right?
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, it sort of dovetailed into like I've been learning Chinese now for 2 years. And one of the big sort of, I guess, themes in Traveler specifically is like going to a new place and just kind of being like dropped right into a context that you're totally unfamiliar with and just kind of being expected to like just, get everything and be able to figure it out and like everyone kind of holding you to the standards of their culture that they're already familiar with, and you kind of coming in and being like, ooh, what assumptions am I making that are correct for this culture? And then what am I doing that everyone is just like cringing behind their, behind their palms at me? That's one way in which that like just the very basis of like traveling to a new place and then just having to like deal with the reality there is something that I think about a lot while teaching.
What about you, Paul?
Not necessarily work-based, but I love traveling specifically.
Yeah.
It's maybe my biggest hobby. So the whole concept of Traveler kind of is, I mean, this is about this person being dropped or going to all these sort of disparate places, and I just love it. And like it's something that all these bits of wonder that come along with that, or I try to sort of like put them into the stories and, like pull from my own experiences when we're like writing and editing and brainstorming ideas and like the awe and wonder of traveling.
And also like the awkward situations.
Oh, and like the plenty of awkward situations and the parts where like, oh, I just walked into this restaurant and no one is spoken to me. I'll just sit down and see if I get food.
So do you guys have a goal for VanCAF next year that you're trying to reach?
I think that's sort of it's a little bit still up in the air as far as I think that really worked.
No deadlines, no pressure
No,
for now, or
I think that there's still some work. We're still kind of new to the whole comic process, and I think there's still some work that can be done, especially with Traveler 1, as far as getting it out like more widespread into more shops and reviewed and things like that. So I think that we're going to focus more on that sort of.
It's part of the comics business, especially if you're independent.
It's not super.
Exactly, yeah.
It's all a learning curve the first time. I'm
sure.
saying this like I'm some sort of guru, but I'm not. With my one comic, I'm like, yes. Also, everything is new, and I'm learning. I'm like, putting it in shops and like
exactly.
catalogs.
That's part of the struggle of self-publishing, right?
Distribution and
advertising. That's part of it. The two arms of comic making comics and selling comics.
Yeah.
Have you thought about like pitching to a publisher, or is that like
thought about
not for
it?
This comic.
Thought about it, yes, but like it's just one of many different possibilities, if that makes sense. Sort of considerations of like, okay, we got all these potential options. It's about picking one. Yeah.
Do you guys have any advice for new comic book creators on like things to do, things to look out for?
Do a lot of front end work.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one for me.
What does that mean? What do you mean by front end work?
Oh my goodness, you have no idea. The first time the first comic that we did, I, as the artist, was like really lazy. And so on the front end, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wing it. Like, I don't need to make like character sheets or like, I don't need to, have any references for these things. So I just kind of went in and started drawing it like front to back. And then I had to revise it because there were huge points in it that just didn't make sense. You had to insert pages and redraw things, and it was just a complete nightmare. Like really late in the process to try to fix these things that could have been super easily fixed if I had, done the things that I did in the second book, like make character sheets, storyboard everything, do things in a logical manner. The more time you put in the front end, the more time saved in the back end.
Though, and this is sort of like a counterpoint to that, a problem that I felt that I had was that I was
with the first
too
rigid
in the scripting, where I like scripted it down to every single panel. Yeah. And the reality is that if even a tiny little thing changed, then the whole thing fell apart. And so there would be like weird situations where it would be like, okay, we need 2 more panels here, and like we
can't fit 2 panels in the middle. So that's what we're saying. This kind of thing happened in which maybe something didn't come across in one of the drawn panels, or we realized later that the script something fell short, and we had to actually. This is the reality of it. We had to redraw. I think it was 2 or 4 pages. Yeah, which
took a lot of time.
Especially in a 16. The first one was 16 or is it 18? Anyways, in like a short comic, redrawing 4 pages is
pretty big percentage.
It's a pretty big, added workload. So don't do that. Whoever's listening.
Well, I'm sure they'll make all their own mistakes. Everyone learns so much from the first project.
One or two.
Yeah. Cool. So where can people find you to follow you online and find your new comic?
Well, the advantage of having a name that no one else has is that we just have the same handle across everything.
Perfect.
So it's Fantasy, IKTH, Fantasy, one word, and that's
Instagram, Twitter,
Instagram, Facebook,
and Gumroad. And Gumroad for that new expanded world comic with everything you have so far.
Pretty much.
Coming out now.
This very
instant now.
Yes.
And links I'm sure I'll be putting below in the YouTube video and wherever this video is posted. So awesome. Check that out. Thank you guys so much for your time and coming to be interviewed. This is really fun. And thanks to everyone watching. Have a good VanCAF online.